Welcome to the Leadership Levers Podcast. I'm your host, Will Gladhart, CMO at the Culture Think Tank. Our Culture Think Tank community is committed to advancing workplace culture and well-being. We are a virtual hub for authors, investors, leaders, managers, and employees worldwide to connect, engage in candid discussions, share ideas, and explore resources for cultivating a healthy work environment. We're here today to learn about the actions leaders have taken to address cultural change. Our guest today is Tom Ragen, CEO of Color Communications. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
I thought we would start by having you share a little with our audience a bit about yourself, your organization, and your background.
Sure. Color Communications is an international company that makes color marketing tools for largely architectural paint companies. So you think Behr, Benjamin Moore, PPG, Sherwin-Williams, folks like that. All that color material when you walk into the store to buy paint, that's the product we make. We pride ourselves on innovation. So we have the peel and stick labels in Sherwin-Williams. It's a patent that's over 20 years old for us. And we continue to look for innovative products that can help our clients sell their products.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So we'll be discussing 3 questions today. As a warm-up to start our conversation, would you share why you believe a healthy culture is critical?
Well, I think every executive that I've ever heard give a speech or talk in any depth, they always say, our people are our most important asset. And so the next question is, well, so what? What are you doing with that asset? And I think you have to have a plan for managing those assets and a metric for seeing if your plan is working. And a lot of companies don't do that. And I'm not talking about associate satisfaction surveys. To me, those aren't a metric. Not saying they lack value. They can be of value. But I think you have to have a metric, and the company has to be rallied around that as a key product indicator, process indicator.
Absolutely. So, what do you think that leaders can do to address the challenges they're facing, or what is something specifically that you've done?
Well, I don't want to oversimplify it, but I'm a fairly simple person. To me, you have to have a communication plan, a learning plan, and a reward plan around your people and around the culture. And when you talk about the makeup of a company and culture, to me, sort of the 3 things that feed culture are structure, process, and the people that are in it, right? And so once you identify what those 3 things are, and you put a communication plan, a learning plan, and a reward plan that foster and develop and support those 3 things, then that's essentially becomes your culture. And the culture is a byproduct of all that effort. And again, it goes back to, do you have metrics and a plan around improving that culture? And it's, to me, why the other element of why it's important, and again, it's a simple thing, but if you work a 40-hour a week, you're 2,000 hours, over 2,000 hours a year in this culture. And if it's negative, you can't produce, you can't be effective and efficient and do the things that your clients need you to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point about the communication, the awards, the acknowledgement of staff. And everyone always says that you have a culture whether you intended to have one or not. So what are you doing to foster it? What are you doing to acknowledge your people? And also, what are you doing to take the next step? So you shared a couple really key ideas. Do you think there anything else that leaders can do, or what would you share with other leaders that have helped you along the journey?
Well, I think the hardest part for a leader when you talk about culture is being willing to sacrifice what's hard for you to feed the culture. So I'll give you a story. When I got to this company, and I'm a bit of a professional vagabond. I tend to move around a little bit every 7 or 8 years. It's not intentional, but it just works out that way. So I got here. It'll be 6 years ago this April, and the culture was pretty bad. I'll just leave it at that. And excellent performers were allowed to behave however they wanted to behave, and that included bullying people. And inappropriate, unprofessional behavior, and I'm made it clear from day one, hey, we're not going to tolerate that. That's no longer acceptable. And I had one person in particular who was client facing, and the client absolutely loved this person, but this person was a bully to our people. And we tried to work with her to try and manage that. I personally gave her feedback that it needed to stop. We documented it. You went through all the good professional practices that you would go to, even send her outside the company for some training. Like you're important to us, right? You're an important asset. You're really good at your job. We want you to stay here. Here's how you need to behave when you're here. And she just couldn't stop herself. And so we had to let her go. And the client was not happy. And
Mhm.
it was a big client. It was a top 5 client, and they were really upset with me. And people, some people, not so much people in the plant, but the salesperson that was in charge of the account was not happy with me. And but the reality was it had to happen. And so now, fast forward 5 years, well, 4 years, we actually have more business with that client today than we did then. And our metrics are in that group are as high as they've ever been, and continue to get better with each passing year. So that period when I made that decision, you have to sacrifice for the team, and that includes you too, right? You have to lead by example, and that's not easy. And because there is so much going on, and you have so many headaches, and running a company is a complex thing. It's easy to say, well, I'm just going to accept that behavior. It's okay. They're good at what they do. And you can't. If you're really serious about leveraging your assets, you can't do that.
I really appreciate you sharing that story because I think it's a lot of leaders can relate to that where they kept a staff member that eventually was a detriment to the company or cost the company even more. But now obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing where you can look back and go, really tough choice at the time, but it was the best decision for the organization, for the culture, for our
Right.
people. And now you have more business than you'd ever hoped to with this particular client. So that's a great testament to leadership, but also your vision to leading a culture and helping transform that in a company. So, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Well, the cool thing about that story is less about me and more about what the folks, how they responded to that adversity when that person was let go. I had a number of people come say to me, how can I help? What can I do? How can I step in? Hey, I have this idea that can make this simpler and better, right? So it actually strengthened the culture because everyone said, hey, this guy he's serious about what we're going to do, and we like what he's going to do, so we're going to make him look good. And
Yeah,
so it was because there's no way I would make myself look good, and so the
right.
team did a great job, and it's really that's what you want, right? You want the team pulling together, recognizing the moment when they need to do that, and it was really a great moment for our company.
Yeah, that's really fantastic because it showed that not only it sparked culture, but it sparked innovation, it sparked ideas and other
Right.
opportunities that might not have been thought of. So, Tom, I've enjoyed having you on our Leadership Lovers podcast. Thank you again for your time and insights.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, and I appreciate you again having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Lovers podcast. You may find all our Leadership Lovers episodes in our Culture Think Tank community at www.culturethinktank.ai. Join the community at no charge and tune in weekly as we invite leaders to share their experience in strengthening culture one action at a time.